plan human resource management? A planning process of knowledge area project human resource management. Planning process usually tells us how are we going to execute rest of the processes in a given knowledge area. So the human resource knowledge area, how we are going to acquire, develop, manage team need to be planned in advance. For doing a planning, we need to know resource requirement. We need to know what is the overall project management philosophy of this particular project. What kind of life cycle we are going to use. Do we need a continuous one set of manpower, or do we need some set of people for a only given duration in a project? So in order to plan, let us look at the input information we need in this process. We need to know project management plan. Now project management plan talks about a life cycle, an approach we are going to take throughout the project. It also has other subsidiary plans which are giving us cost, scope and time baseline and their respective management plan. Along with this, we also need an input from our time management knowledge area, which is activity resource requirements. In our time management knowledge area, we have divided the work package into an activity, and for every activity, we have estimated what kind of resources we need. So we need activity resource estimate. Now with these two, we know what type of people we need and at what particular stage we need people and what we have to do with them. Along with it, we need to know enterprise environmental factor, because even if we are planning about the people, but we need to aware about the organization skills, what kind of skills we have inside internally, what kind of skills we need to acquire from outside, what is the market rate, what is the skill supply rate, etc., etc. So all comes from enterprise environmental factor. Organization process assets, guidelines, procedures related to human resource management. These all come from organization process asset. Let's talk about tools and technique. The first tool and technique is organization charts and position description. Now in this tool and technique, we talk about what kind of project organization structure we are going to follow in this project. What do we expect from individual roles? What kind of responsibility they would be having? And we can use various charts like organization chart, organization breakdown structure, resource breakdown structure, responsibility assignment matrix, and textual description in order to communicate that. In another video, we are getting in detail of each of these tasks. Second, we can apply a networking. Now, organization charts and position descriptions are relatively very formal structure, but lot of things happen informally. So while planning the human resource, we also need to take care of various informal relationships which exist between individuals. Now, this is relevant for inside the project, and it is also relevant while dealing with an external organization, because in general you perform projects in a matrix organization, and in matrix organization you need to have various informal networking relationship with the supporting functions and rest of the stakeholders. So you apply the networking technique by having informal discussions, coffee meetings, lunch meetings to get a right people or develop a right human resource plan for your project. You also look at organization theories. You look what motivates people. You also try to identify how people behave, how team behaves inside the organization. So organization theory is one of the tool and technique for your plan human resource management output. Now, what else? We need to use expert judgment, because only expert can tell what type of people you need for what particular position. So expert judgment would be needed before we finalize the role and responsibility of our project organization. So these all are working together. These tool and technique are not like the one individual thing is working. They all put together helps us in identifying human resource management plan. So we apply our expert judgment. What else? Meeting. We meet people, we discuss these all inputs and try to identify or devise a human resource management plan. So what we get out of plan human resource management process? Only one output: human resource management plan. Now, human resource management plan may have various sections and subsections. This should have a project organization chart. The tool and technique which we were applying here and visualizing the organization breakdown structure, etc. Finally, we should get a project organization chart in our human resource management plan. We should also get role, responsibility, authority, competence, details at individual levels. So whatever comes in this organization chart, which may look like a hierarchical diagram where project manager is sitting on a top, and if we have a position here, this position first should be further elaborated in a textual format by telling what role, responsibility, authority and competence this particular node should have. A human resource management plan should also contain another plan, which is called staffing management plan. Now, this staffing management plan basically deals in getting the people, acquiring the people, releasing them, managing their allocation, training them, identifying recognition and reward system for them, identifying safety and compliance need for these newly acquired resources. So in general, the content, the structure may vary from project to project, but you need to talk about how are you going to acquire. So what is your plan for acquiring people? What kind of tools you will use to acquire people? Will you use internal hiring, or will you use contract laborers, or you are going to use you need to create an external vacancies for a short duration? Whatever. So you talk about that in staffing management plan. How are you going to acquire your people? After acquiring, you also talk about a resource calendar. Resource calendar helps us in visualizing how these acquired resources are utilized throughout the project life cycle, because it is again dependent on the life cycle we use. Usually we use a graph like histogram, or which is also called resource histogram, to identify against the time, a day or a week, how an individual resource is allocated. So how many hours he is allocated. This helps us in identifying the overall utilization of these acquired resources. Then the staffing management plan also talk about how are you going to release people. How are you going to train people? What kind of reward and recognition you want to follow? You also want to talk about safety and compliance needs. So staffing management plan is primarily focusing on getting people, giving them a work, and then finally releasing them. So in summary, this process gives us human resource management plan, and this plan will help us in acquiring, managing, developing project team.